All right, everybody, welcome to tonight's episode of Strange Appalachia, where we are going to discuss a story out of West Virginia called the Flatwoods Monster. And this is a monster sighting that's actually technically an alien sighting that happens basically smack dab in the middle of West Virginia in a small town or community called Flatwoods. So, Charlie, you want to pick it up there?
Yeah, so what it starts out with is two people, or three people, Edward and Fred May and their friend Tommy Hayer, and they see a bright object in the sky. Um, they see it land on a farmer's land, and this farmer, his name is G. Bailey Fisher. And they went home. They went to the home of Kathleen May, told their story, and they were accompanied by three local children. Um, they actually had names them too: Neil Nunley, Ronnie Shaver, and one of them is a West Virginia National Guardsman by the name of Eugene Lemon. I don't see the third child name though. They went to the farm. They
So,
located where he
so if I
was.
can, if I can throw in
Yeah,
the three boys you're talking about, because I read this same report. The three boys are the original three, and then local children was the Nunley and Shaver kid, and then the Virginia or the West Virginia National Guardsman. So when you
uh,
see three boys, that's the two brothers and Mr. Hire.
all right, fair enough. Um, they reported seeing a pulsing red light. He aimed his flashlight in the direction. He being Mr. Lemon. They saw a
Who is
man-like
the
figure.
guardsman?
Yes, a man-like figure with a round red face surrounded by pointed hood shape, uh, almost like a top cloth. Supposedly, it was around 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
Uh,
So to give you more of a description there, or more of something that those of you listening might be able to associate with this. Imagine like if you've got a deck of playing cards and you've got the suit that is spades, that head shape is shaped very similar to a spade, except red.
correct. Um, there was supposedly a green mist that made all of them sick, that came from this creature. So one of the things I'm looking on this report here, it doesn't list there was another woman that supposedly saw it later on, and it didn't have the hood up, and it looked more like it had the base. Supposedly this thing floated, looked like the bottom side or the bottom half of the creature looked like a flowing robe. Um, Another lady saw it, and it didn't have the hood on the top, but it had the flowing robe on the bottom, almost like it was a device that it was flying around in. But this report I'm reading doesn't list that sighting either.
Yeah, I've not read anything about the robe, although that is something that I know is associated with it a lot. But I have not read that specific report. Um, and so, you know, I know it sounds a lot of times like Charlie and I come in and we do these podcasts and we sort of agree on everything, like we've talked about it beforehand, and we have talked about it beforehand. But most of the time, Charlie and I agree pretty well. But talking about this one beforehand, it sounds like we've got what might quite possibly be the first one of these where there is not a consensus between the two of us.
No. So go ahead and tell yours what you think it is.
Yeah, so you know, just about any alien sighting, um, my first thought always goes to some kind of a misidentified bird. And this one I think fits really well into the misidentified bird category because if you look at a barn owl, the head shape on a barn owl is almost exactly like the shape that's being described there, that sort of spade shape. And if you know, there's also a report where it talks about the creature had small claw-like hands and that it glided towards the group. and that fits pretty prominently in with a barn owl. And the one issue I would say with it being the barn owl is the red coloration on it. Um, but there is also a report from around the same time frame with a meteor that was observed in the area across three states: Maryland, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, and some red aircraft beacons that were also visible, or should also have been visible in that area around the time that this sighting took place. So that red pulsing light from the aircraft could very well account for the red light on the barn owl. So I think that fits in pretty well. The only other thing that would then not necessarily be accounted for would be the nausea and the people getting sick, and that very easily could be explained with these people are going out and investigating something that has frightened them, or something they don't necessarily know what it is. So they go out and they're a little worked up, a little over exaggerated, just a little bit, and a little bit of hysteria kicks in. Apparently, they've been walking quite a bit that night to get to where they saw this thing at. And that's nausea is something very common if you overexert yourself, or have quite a bit of fear, or trauma of some kind. So I think all of it fits sort of neatly into the normal this thing's not an alien category, but I'll let you go with your end of the story now.
Yeah, I actually think that they've seen something unknown. Whether it's an alien or not, I don't know, obviously. But I actually think that this is one where they've seen something they can't explain. That's not an owl. Um, to me, the fact that it looks like an ace of spades, that's not what, to me, an owl's face would look like. And it's 10 foot tall. So, uh, it's true that eyewitnesses are horrible, but it's hard to mistake something that's 3 foot tall for something that's 10 foot tall. Um, I wouldn't think that that would be something they would miss. This is one of those that I'm like, that I'm pulling for the people that saw it instead of being skeptical about it. But I think they had an actual experience with something unknown on this one. I've been looking for the second article that I read where the lady saw it without its top half on, and it seems to me like it's almost something that's wearing a suit, and the top half, maybe it was taking it off, or maybe it was not wearing it at the time, and she saw that. Um, so I actually think that they had an experience with this one that was something that we can't explain.
Yeah, it's just my again we've talked about this before. My first thought's always going to be towards the easiest explanation that makes sense, I guess. And the scientifically we have no proof of aliens, so um, I don't know that I can just go to, or not necessarily aliens. It could very easily be some kind of a government experiment, because West Virginia is pretty well known for weird government experiments. But I think the barn owl fits almost too perfectly into this one to not be the answer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it definitely could be. Kind of like the Hopkinsville goblins. Those things are. That's almost definitely an owl.
Yeah,
But I don't know, man. Something about this one, the height of the thing, the supposedly it let out a noxious gas that they could smell. I think they actually described it as smelling like chlorine. And I know they did a thing on. I don't know if you ever watched the show. Is it Monster Quest? Um, they did
sure.
an episode of that where they found radiation in a tree that was near where this thing was. It's been what 50 years, 60 years since that thing
70
stopped.
years next year.
70 years.
1952 was when it happened, so next year is 70 years.
So yeah, they've got the experiment they did on the tree, they found radiation. Now, anytime you're watching these shows, they've got to find something,
Right.
right? So it very easily could have been that could be the situation, but a lot of the stuff that I've seen on it, it just to me it never hit me as an owl. It stayed low to the ground. It wasn't flying up out of the sky or a tree. You know, I can't tell you what it was they saw, but I don't think it was an owl myself.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Al on this one, and maybe at some point we can get up there and look around or something. But something tells me to get to where this place is at, we're going to have to go across that ginormous bridge, and that's not going to be conducive to me going. So
You can just close your eyes. I'll drive it.
yeah, we'll have to do something. So talking about the Flatwoods Monster, I think we would be um, a little bit off our normal cue if we didn't mention the fact that this has been used in a lot of different sort of pop culture type things. Um, just like with any of these good stories that we talk about, there's a festival about it in Flatwoods. So if you want to see more about this or sit on a really interesting looking chair that's shaped like the Flatwoods Monster, you're more than welcome to go check that out in Braxton County. Um,
That's
it
legit.
even has its nice ace of spade shaped head, as well as several video games, including most recently Fallout 76. It plays a somewhat prominent role in that and is also in an episode of the History Channel series Project Blue Book, and is actually the name of the episode that it appears in is the Flatwoods Monster.
Yeah,
That wasn't a TV show that I got into, but I do remember watching part of that episode.
yeah. I know that most often it's associated with aliens.
Mm.
Um, like I said, I don't necessarily buy into the alien thing, but you know, these people definitely saw something, and it was large. It was huge, and it affected them physiologically. Now could it be all the things? Yeah, for sure, it could be. Overexertion and terror, but I don't know. Just something about this one makes me think it's something else.
And you have been doing this for a longer time than I have, so your gut instinct's probably going to be a little more accurate than mine. But I'm getting just a normal run of the mill owl feel out of this one.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it.
So all right, anything else you want to add in? Any news of the weird or anything you want to talk about?
As far as News of the Weird goes, a lot of the stuff that I'm following, man, there have been a metric ton of Bigfoot sightings in the last 2 months, and I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if it's where people are kind of being home, cooped up from the whole pandemic thing, and they're wanting to get back into nature. But I've seen a ton of Bigfoot sightings in the last couple of months, and some people have some video evidence. Some of them have had some pictures, and so far none of the stuff that they've had have convinced me. But it has been unbelievable the amount of the uptick I've read in sightings. So I don't know what all that's about, but there's something going on there.
Mm. I've not been keeping up with that nearly as closely, but something that doesn't necessarily fall into the Appalachian realm, but is a little odd. Have you seen any of the breaking news on the DB Cooper thing?
No, go ahead. What is it?
All right, so for those of you who don't know, DB Cooper is a famous skyjacker, I guess is the word.
Yeah,
But he basically skyjacked a plane and got some ransom money out of the was it the FBI, I guess.
yes,
And so he was allowed to take off after they gave him the ransom money, basically because their thought was nobody in their right mind, even with a parachute, would jump out of the plane that he was on. And then he jumped out of the plane he was on and vanished, into the Pacific Northwest somewhere. There's for a long, long time, there's been a debate on where he jumped and how he jumped and all that good stuff. But then, what was it, about 20 or 30 years later, they found a kid digging in the sand on a riverbank, found some of the money. Is
Yep,
that right? 20, 30
that's
years
correct.
later?
The government let him keep part of it as a souvenir. So
Yeah.
he's got some of the destroyed money, a couple of the bills, I think.
Yep. Yep. So there have been some new scientific breakthroughs and stuff, and there are some microscopic organisms. So again, this is going to tie a little bit into my biology background, called diatoms or diatoms, depending on who says it. I say diatom. But these diatoms are found in water almost all around the world. But there are different diatoms at different times of the year. And so this money that they found, they did some research on it and found some diatoms on this money. And a lot of people think that where they found this money at is probably where he jumped out of the plane at, and died somewhere on impact, died somewhere in the area, and that was just his money floating down the stream or floating through the river. But it turns out that this money that they found could not have been in that river any sooner than 6 months after he jumped out of the plane. So 6 months after he jumped, it landed in that river. It wasn't there before that, because
Huh.
the diatoms that they found there are not present in whatever season he jumped out of, but was present. I think he jumped maybe in summer, and the diatoms were from winter, but that may be backwards. But so that money had to get there 6 months after he jumped. So that was sort of the big break that I've seen here recently.
Wow. Well, I know that they've analyzed, he left his tie, and they analyzed his tie, and they found that it had machining metals. Like he worked in a machine shop or was in a machine shop with that tie.
Okay,
And
I
so
haven't seen that, so that's
yeah,
interesting.
they've linked him to a machinist of some sort. And then I saw one investigator that believes that he actually flew back into Texas or back south on the plane and jumped later on. And
Yeah,
he kind of just put a show on to make them think he jumped out over the Pacific Northwest, but actually he jumped later. And one of his things is somebody took out an article in the paper of that little local town there he jumped out of and basically thanked them for their hospitality at the same time that Cooper, you know, everybody
yeah,
was looking for Cooper. And so
yeah.
if that's what happened, if that's the case, then he could have easily went back up there and dumped the money
Yeah,
or dumped
and
some of the
and
money.
the so the I saw that in an article, and then also saw it also on Josh Gates's show, Expedition Unknown.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and he interviewed the guy that made that discovery, and basically that guy's working theory is that DB Cooper, or whoever the guy's name actually is, jumped somewhere in the Pacific Northwest and buried the money there. And there was actually a flood that year. So he went back to get the money out, and it was underwater, and that was just part of it that he couldn't get before the water got to it.
Huh.
Um, and that it was partially washed away in a flood, but that either DB Cooper or somebody who knew where DB Cooper's stash was buried went to get it during this flood, because they knew they couldn't get it after that, because the flood would take it away, and just lost some of it, which is an
Well,
interesting take. It would make sense. I know if I had money stashed somewhere and it was about to get flooded, I'd try to go get it.
well, it's amazing. Any good mystery has a festival, and there's a DB Cooper festival.
Yep.
There's people dressed up like DB Cooper running around at it.
Uh,
So
on that same note, pop culture, DB Cooper was Loki, if you watched the Loki show.
yeah, yes, it was.
So again, any of these good mysteries is going to have a good small town festival to it and show up somewhere in pop culture.
That's awesome. All
So
right, man.
anything else?
That's all I got. If you want to go ahead and close this out, other than the whole weird Bigfoot thing going on right now, where everybody's seeing sighting. Oh, I did see something else. They had a
Okay, go
sighting of
for
the
it.
Loch Ness monster.
Oh, really? I
Yeah, they
missed
had.
that.
Yeah, it was on video. Of course,
Oh,
like any
cool.
good sighting of the Loch Ness monster, you can't tell what it is or
Yeah,
what's going
naturally
on.
blurry. Sure.
Yeah, related to Bigfoot.
Yeah, they're cousins.
Yeah, but I did see
Aquatic,
that.
aquatic cousin of Bigfoot.
Well, the crazy thing is that big head and back you see,
Yeah.
that's not really the monster. The monster actually is shaped like Bigfoot under the water, and that's like a head crest.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. I could
Yeah,
see that.
yeah,
Like a snorkel.
pretty
It's
much.
got to
Yeah,
breathe underwater.
that's
Okay.
correct.
Awesome.
Weird
Uh,
anatomy.
so now that we're done with the goofball theories, as always, we want to thank you for listening. I know putting up with our nonsense can be trying sometimes, and you all have just sat through 22 minutes of it, but here we are, and we appreciate you listening to us. If you've got any suggestions on things you think we need to check out, or any investigations we can do, let us know. Check us out over on Facebook. Our page is Strange Appalachia, or check us out here on YouTube. Hopefully you've already found us here. But we upload all our stuff here on our YouTube channel, Strange Appalachia again. And leave us a like and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate that. And we will see you all next time.